They called her crazy when she showed up at the wedding in a torn dress, holding an old violin. But when she started to play, the entire hall fell silent. Even the groom froze. Nobody expected that melody, and what came next changed everyone's life forever. It all began on a cold evening in New York City. Streetlights flickered across the park as people hurried past a girl sitting on a wooden bench, clutching a battered violin. Her name was Leela, a young woman who had once dreamed of playing on the world's biggest stages. But life, as cruel as it can be, had pushed her dreams aside for survival. Her mother was ill, her bills piled up, and every note she played on that violin was a desperate cry for hope. That evening, as she played a soft, trembling melody beneath the yellow glow of a lamp, a man stopped to listen. He was tall, confident, and sharply dressed, a clear outsider in her small world. His name was Ethan Cole, a successful architect known for his ambition and perfection. He had no time for music, or love, or even pauses in his busy life. But something in Leela's music froze him. It wasn't perfect. It was real. It was raw emotion, and it stirred something long buried in him. When the last note faded, Ethan smiled faintly and said jokingly, "Play the violin, and I'll marry you." Leela blinked, half smiling. "You wouldn't even remember my name tomorrow." He laughed. "Try me." They talked for hours that night. About dreams, regrets, and the lives they were too afraid to chase. For the first time in years, Ethan felt alive. And for the first time, Leela felt seen. Before leaving, he handed her his business card and said softly, "When you can play a melody that makes me cry, I'll keep my promise." She didn't take it seriously. But deep inside, that promise lit a spark she hadn't felt in years. Weeks turned into months. Leela worked nights at a diner and practiced by day. Her fingers blistered and bleeding, her heart focused on one goal: to create a song that would reach Ethan's soul. But when she finally gathered the courage to visit his office, she saw something that shattered her. Ethan standing beside another woman, smiling for their engagement photo. Her world collapsed. That night, she packed away her violin, swearing never to play again. The man who had inspired her music had chosen someone else. 2 years later, Ethan's wedding was the event of the season. The grand hall was filled with luxury. Crystal chandeliers, white roses, and hundreds of guests dressed in elegance. He was about to marry Sophia, the daughter of a wealthy businessman. Everything looked perfect from the outside. But deep inside, Ethan felt empty. Every speech, every toast, every congratulation felt hollow. Something was missing. A piece of his soul he had buried years ago. And then as the ceremony began, a sound drifted through the air. Soft, trembling, yet hauntingly familiar. A violin. Every head turned. At the entrance stood Leela, wearing a faded blue dress, holding that same old violin. Her hands trembled, but her eyes held fire. No one knew who she was. But when she started to play, the world stopped moving. It was a melody Ethan had never heard before. Yet it felt like every memory, every laugh, every conversation they had that night in the park. It was their story told through music. The pain, the longing, the love that never had a chance. Tears rolled down his face before he even realized it. Sophia watched in confusion as the guests stood motionless, moved beyond words. When the final note hung in the air, Leela whispered, "You said you'd marry me if my music made you cry." She smiled faintly. "I don't want your ring. I just wanted to remind you what love feels like." She turned to leave, but Ethan ran after her, his heart breaking open. "Leela. Wait." She stopped, her eyes glistening. "Don't chase me, Ethan. Chase your truth. I found mine in my music again." And with that, she walked away, leaving behind silence, tears, and a man forever changed. Years later, Ethan would visit the same park every evening, hoping to hear that melody again. Leela's music had awakened something deeper than love. Purpose. He sponsored young musicians, built community art centers, and helped others chase dreams he once ignored. And sometimes, when the wind carried the faint sound of a violin, he would close his eyes and whisper, "Thank you, Leela. You kept your promise and gave me back my soul." Love isn't always about being together. Sometimes it's about inspiring someone to find who they truly are. True love doesn't end with a ring. It lives on in the hearts we change forever.